hello everyone, and welcome to our December edition of Show and Tell. My name is Robbie Sinclair, and I'm the VP of Fashion here at FS. And with me today, I have my incredible colleagues who I'll let introduce themselves as we dig into the topics. So for those of you who are new to Show and Tell, welcome. And for those of you who aren't so new, welcome back. So basically, each month, we get together as a team, we dive into happenings that are bubbling up, we discuss different topics that are influencing culture, or we kind of use this as, I guess, like a bit of a brain dump of all the things that we're really excited about. And in this session, to round off the year, we want to talk through some of the things that we're really looking forward to in 2026. So, welcome and join us as we walk through some of the upcoming movies, TV shows, music, exhibitions, pop culture, all these amazing things that we're really excited to dig into for the year ahead. And one last thing to mention before we dig into the next slide is our next show and tell session will take place on the 4th of February next year, which sounds insane that I'm talking about February. And we're going to skip January so everyone can kind of relax after the holidays, get into the groove again. So our next slide. Yeah, just a reminder, if you've joined us before, you'll know this already, but we really love this to be an interactive session, so feel free to use the chat down the bottom. If you have any questions or have any thoughts, or you want to say hello to everyone and tell us where you're calling in from, that would be amazing. And just a reminder, in that chat box, just make sure if you type something that you select everyone so we can all kind of interact with each other and get along like a big happy family. Before I kick things off, I'm going to quickly hand over to Ellie, who's going to walk you through one of our upcoming events. So over to you.
Hi, Robbie. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. Yes, on the 11th of December, we are hosting the next webinar in our Sustainability No Filter series, your ticket to uncovering the hidden truths about sustainable design. And this month's session is a fast, insight-packed 30 minutes where we'll unpack how AI actually impacts the environment, the sustainable solutions emerging on the horizon, and how to harness the technology's power responsibly. The session will be led by our Director of Sustainability, Emma Grace Bailey. If you haven't signed up yet, you can register on our website, futuresnoops.com/events, or by clicking the resource button in your Zoom toolbar. But that is all from me. I'll hand it back to Robbie to kick off our final show and tell of 2025.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited about that webinar. I think it's going to be incredible. All right, so let's dig in. Um, what I'm basically going to do, this is our Miro. We've put loads of things on here. I'm going to whiz around. I'll speak to each team member. If you have anything that resonates or you have any questions about it, we'll try and get to them as well. And we always like to call out like a little comment here and there. So first off, I kind of want to dig into some of the incredible kind of pop culture moments that are going to be popping up next year. So maybe Anush, let's kick things off with you. So tell me where you want me to drive.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Anush. I'm the Director of Footwear and Accessories here at FS. And actually, Blank Space, the date next book from W. David Marks, literally just came out, and this is a brand new exploration of the last 25 years in moments in major pop culture and how commercial and tech forces have really dominated contemporary culture in the last quarter of a century, which is also insane to say and think about. So you might know his work from the book Status and Culture. And here he's really, again, diving into these significant pop culture moments and really showcasing how our cultural values have changed since the turn of the century. And the book is titled Blank Space. And the premise is basically that we've entered a cultural blank space. And a quote from the publisher in an era where reboots, rehashes, and fads flourish, while bold artistic experimentation struggles to gain recognition. Why is risk no longer rewarded? And how did playing it safe become the formula for success? And this is definitely something we've been talking a lot about at FS. So if you're feeling reflective this winter and looking for answers for the last 25 years, this might be a nice one to dive into. And I think next year, because 25 years have just passed into the millennium, we will see quite a bit of reflection and trying to kind of suss out what everything means. So that would be my first book pick. I feel like this has turned into like a gift, top gifts for the winter season.
Yeah, for sure. This sounds so good because, like, whenever we speak to a client or someone in the industry, there it seems to be like this crazy pattern that everyone's feeling the same, and we're kind of like, yeah, blank space is such a good term for it because it is kind of like what's going on in creativity, and we're really trying to like work with clients. Yeah, I really need to get this
Yeah,
book.
exactly. Totally.
Like,
I have another book pick if you
actually,
want to jump into this one too. This is from the co-founder of Morning, which is a creative agency based in London, Lydia Pang. Um, and she is making her literary debut with what is described as a book about guts and feelings and looking at food as a way to digest her own reality and really food as a medium to process her emotions. So if you follow her Instagram, you'll see that food is such a huge part of her life and the culture that she creates. This will be coming out in May next year, and her story is told through the unique lens of Hakka culture, which is this cultural identity of Han Chinese that have migrated across Asia and the Americas. And due to migration and displacement, their cuisine has sort of been absorbed by the monolith of broader Chinese culture. So in Hakka culture, eating bitter means to endure pain alongside the sweetness in both food and life. So Pang uses this as sort of a concept and lens to speak about her own hardships that she's dealt with in her career, in her personal life. And the publisher really summed it up quite nicely, saying it has the satire and darkness of Netflix beef, the tender insight of crying in H Mart, and the distinct magic of Ella Reese Bridger's Midnight Chicken. So I'm really excited about this. Me and the accessories team are big fans of Lydia Pang, so something interesting to look forward to if you're a food lover and love to read about food as well. So we're excited about that one.
I love this sentence here where it's like a belly full of contemplation. It sounds that's such like I don't know, it feels really kind of like poetic. Amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So I didn't miss any more. All right. So yeah, let's move on to the next slice. And when I saw this kind of pop up on the Miro, I was super excited because I loved overcompensating so much. So now, Layla, I'll hand it over to you and you can talk through this kind of idea of the return of Zillennial sitcoms, please.
Yeah, well, first, hi everyone. I'm Layla. I'm on the culture team. And like Robbie, I really enjoyed both of these series that came out over the summer. One is adults and the other is overcompensating, and they both were renewed for season two. So we can expect to see those next year. But I think what's really interesting about these is just how much debate I saw about them. There were so many people that were like, "Oh, this like does not resonate at all. It's like terrible. It's not accurately representing the generations that it's trying to target." And then others were like, "I feel called out and this is like too personal." Um, so I feel like this is also kind of an extension of like this return to cringe conversation too, because there's so many awkward and embarrassing moments between both of the shows. And in a weird way, I feel like it's something that Gen Z especially needs, where it's like we need to see ourselves doing the most embarrassing things possible. But really excited to see what new storylines come up next year and if oh yeah, and I see someone talking about I Love LA too. I haven't seen that one yet, but that also got renewed for season two. So yeah, lots of reflections of Gen Z and early or young millennials in media. So could be very telling too, as far as like demographic trends and all that as well.
I'm so glad somebody mentioned I Love LA because I had it in my notes to mention. I saw the first few episodes and it's so good. I feel like because I didn't really love Girls, I didn't really get on the Girls bandwagon so much. And I
Mhm.
feel like this is like my version of that. Um, yeah, it's so good. And I'm happy that it's renewed for a second season. Um, Ayla, you want me to scroll up here? I'm drawn to Charlie. Should we do
Oh
her
yeah,
next?
it's kind of a good segue from the last one because she did make a cameo in Overcompensating. But I saw that Charlie announced a new mockumentary with A24 that's gonna basically be based on her Brat era, and I think it was inspired by all the pressure she felt to make an actual documentary about the period since it became such a big cultural moment. But I'm super excited for this. I think it's going to be a really cool blend of like fiction and reality. And I think audiences will get a lot of fun out of kind of trying to dissect the moments that were like exaggerated and what was real. And I think Charlie has this kind of unique characteristic where it's like she knows exactly what to do that aligns with her creative identity. So, really excited for this. I think it comes out in January, so right around the corner as well.
Yeah, I watched the trailer for this and it just looks so fascinating because it's like real and not real and kind of like made up segments and like weird like comedy moments. I'm so
Right.
excited. I'm just basically excited for everything she's going to do next year. Like that music video where she's get flying around the table is nuts and so good.
Yeah. And I'm like
Um,
Wuthering Heights soundtrack coming out too, so look out for that as well.
yeah, yeah. Just a couple of things I also saw. I feel like Anne Hathaway's been real busy. And she seems to be in everything. So we have the Odyssey, which is the Christopher Nolan. And the cast for this is insane. Like it's literally got everyone in it. Mia Goth, who we love, Zendaya, Anne Hathaway, Tom Holland. So really excited for that. And then this is one Hallie added, the Flower Vale Street, again with Anne Hathaway and Ewan McGregor, and it's about a family in the 80s who start to notice like bizarre happenings in their neighborhood. I think one thing that we've noticed so much of is this kind of rise in like horror or darkness come through, and I think it's really fascinating to see like massive kind of like upticks in horror and kind of suspense taking over the box office where like musicals and romance is kind of going down. And I think it's really interesting to kind of think about why that's happening. And I guess if we watch like trauma and drama on the screen, it kind of helps our lives a bit because it takes us away of what we're seeing. So yeah, I think that's really fascinating. And then there is also Mother Mary, which I watched the trailer of yesterday. I think the trailer came out yesterday, and it stars Michaela Cole, Hunter Schafer, and Anne Hathaway. And it's this in the trailer, it's got like, this is not a ghost story, this is not a love story. And it's kind of like centered around like the music industry, fashion, but then there's like a bit of witchcraft in there. So if you get a chance, if you haven't seen the trailer already, take a look. Anush, I can see you saying the trailer is wild. It looks so good.
I
All
think
right.
Charlie did some songs for it
Yeah,
too. So
yeah.
like Charlie just she doesn't stop. So I think that's
Yeah.
really interesting how she's kind of delving into the film world too and providing soundtracks,
Yeah.
kind of breaking some barriers about what a pop star should or shouldn't do.
Yeah, I'm really excited. And FK Twigs as well. She's done something for it and she's in it. And then I didn't put this on the Miro because I added it as like a late addition, but you've probably seen all the talk around Adele and the new Tom Ford film, which is called Cry to Heaven. And it's going to be set in like 18th century. I think it's going to be shot in Italy. Um, it's also starring Nicholas Hoult, Hunter Schafer. Again, she's been busy. And it basically follows this story of opera. And I just thought it was interesting. I know we've got a bit of Rosalia coming up in a bit, Anush, but I think there's something just to kind of watch around this kind of like classical music and opera space that I'm seeing come through, which is quite exciting. So yeah, I'm sure we'll start to see. I know they haven't started shooting yet, but Um, I think they're shooting this week, or kind of working on it this week. So I'm excited to see what that looks like in terms of like costuming and stuff. Um, and then I just want to switch gears, take a look at some upcoming exhibitions. So like when I saw this, there's so many juicy things coming up. So Lisa, I'd love to hand over to you to
Yeah.
walk us through what you're most excited about.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Lisa. I'm the director of pattern and graphics. Yeah, so there's so much. I actually always do it at the end of the year, like look at the big exhibitions that are coming. So this was a great opportunity to get some written down to see which ones I can try and go to. Okay, so starting off with a bit of an obvious one, but worth mentioning if you haven't heard about the title of it. So the Met Institute in New York has released the title for their exhibition, which opens in May, of course, which is Costume Art. And interestingly, it's this time around, it's not based on a certain period or designer, which it typically is. The aim of the exhibition is to explore the human body through clothing across history. So it's very broad and very open. So rather than organizing it more specifically, it's structured around body themes such as like the naked body, classical body, pregnant body, changing body shapes, and the anatomy of the body, and even like the mortal body. And each section will be paired with 5,000 years of art. So they're really trying to like collaborate the art and fashion and kind of trying to steer us away from fashion being fleeting, and actually it's more of a reflection of what's going on culturally, and like fashion actually can be considered as a type of fine art. um They've also opened a permanent space in the Met specifically for this exhibition because of that, to kind of show that it has like more permanence. And obviously it speaks quite poignantly to a few kind of conversations that are going on regarding body diversity, representation, beauty standards, and how that can change over time. And I'm more excited, I think, for the Met Gala. The fact that it's open-ended, I feel like it will allow the creatives to really be creative. Like it's like, yes, I guess you still could hide behind a gimmick or a cliche, but I feel like there's like a clean, like a blank canvas to work with. There's so many directions you could go in. So I feel like it'd be a really good opportunity to see where the creatives land with that one. And then next up, I'm going to speak to the Venice Biennale, which the title is In Minor Keys. So this will be happening in Venice from May until November. The theme is anchored in the metaphor of minor keys, like from music. So the idea is to invoke emotional registers associated with intimacy, melancholy, and improvisation, but also hope, consolidation, and transcendence. So rather than it being about this big spectacle or grand declaration, it's meant to be about quiet intensity. So art that invites reflection, listening, sensitivity, and questioning like different rhythms, and also giving a voice to people or areas that are perhaps overlooked. It's a curation, or the intention of the exhibition at least, was the vision of Koyo Kao, if I'm saying that correctly. And that's the lady pictured there, the artist pictured there. She sadly passed away in 2025, but they are continuing with her theme as like a legacy to her. And she, as an artist, is really known for championing underrepresented artists and demographics. So I feel like it'll be a really great show, and it's on for such a long time, so it's always it's a good one to attend. And then the 90s, which takes us on a bit of a different tangent in Tate Britain in London, is on from October next year until the following February. So the name is pretty self-explanatory, but it's curated by Edward Eningful, and it's meant to examine the way that the 90s affected design, especially in British culture. And their press release said, as the Cold War ended and Britain began to emerge from recession, a new dawn of optimism, freedom, and rebellion was ushered in, epitomised by a new generation of diverse creative talent. So I'm really excited for the fashion section, which is going to include a variety of designers, but notably Westwood, McQueen, Shalahan, which are just some of my faves, all-time faves. And then the Wayward, also in London, is showcasing two separate different artists, but kind of presenting them at the same time. There's a Japanese artist, Shihara Shiotu, and then the Chinese artist, Yin Zhuhin. And they're both artists that use unordinary materials, no, ordinary materials, to create extraordinary works, but on this like really monumental interactive scale. So they're both exhibitions are designed to they interweave textiles and found objects into these deeply personal reflections, talking to like the notions of like memory, identity, and human conditions. And then, sorry, I've got a lot, so I'm talking fast. Um,
Don't be sorry. I'm loving
they were all really good
it.
ones. I was trying to whittle it down. I was like, no, no, I'm going to show all of these. Okay, next up is Antwerp Six. So this is the first exhibition devoted to these designers. So these six fashion designers all studied at the Royal Academy of Fine Arts in Antwerp, and they all went on to have phenomenal careers, most of which we know, if not all we know. But in the 80s, they travelled to London and were handing out flyers until they were noticed, and they were noticed. So the designers are Dirk Birkenberg and Die Molemeester, I always say that wrong, Walter van Beirendonck, Dries van Noten, Dirk van Seen, and Mariana Igi. So I think it'll be a really great opportunity to see their distinctive styles. They're all kind of yes, they sit nicely together, but they have this like avant-garde aesthetic, but equally they're all very like notably theirs. So I think that could be a great way to showcase all of their pieces together. And then the last one I have is at the Saatchi Gallery, which is one of my favorite galleries in London. And it's actually starting, I think it started today, yeah, the third. So it's actually starting today until January. So it's what the previous ones were all happening next year. This one's on the go now. But I wanted to mention it because when I first looked at it, I was like, oh, this will be a good one for my daughter. It's like a child's one. But actually, no, no, it's not. It's just an art piece that is curated by Priest. And they are well, they create these, they have this really satirical style that contrasts playful and innocent imagery, but with a dark and subversive subject matter. So I was like, okay, tell me more. So this one, they are using these or creating these giant children's art tables. So they're scattered with crayons, glue sticks, these really bright, fragile, vibrant, exciting creations. And what is the intention? Oh, the question we are questioning that once the art is left, once it grows up, when spontaneity hardens into strategy and honesty, we're wondering if the child who first picked up that crayon might have understood it better right from the start. And they go on to quote, it's a very famous quote from Picasso, every child is an artist. The problem is how to remain an artist once we grow up.
Wow. Love this. It almost looks like Tim Walker did like a collaboration with Crayola or something with those giant like kind of displays. So
Tim
good.
Walker actually has an exhibition as well at the National Portrait Gallery. I had that originally, but I took it off there.
Oh,
It's also
nice.
having a moment.
Yeah, we've got plenty here. Thanks so much. That's amazing. And then switching gears again. So I know that I mentioned Rosalia before. I know we've all been literally obsessing about that new Lux album, and she sings in like 14 languages. And I just think it kind of like opened up loads of like interesting conversations. So Anush, I'd love to hear you walk through this next little segment,
Yes,
please.
totally obsessed with the album too, and also all the discourse and think pieces around it, which have really blown my mind with sort of the marketing behind Rosalia's album too. So with all that and a couple other signals, I'm kind of hoping that next year there will be a language learning renaissance. And there's a couple things that happened this year that kind of prophesize this. Let's say one of them is Bad Bunny's upcoming performance at the Super Bowl and on Saturday Night Live when he was speaking about it and it had just recently been announced. He told the audience that they had plenty of time to learn Spanish before the event. So hopefully that has set off a flurry of Spanish language learning. And then recently with the New York City mayoral-elect Zohran Mamdani and his amazing campaign, he was featured in ads speaking in Arabic, Spanish, Urdu, Hindi, and Bengal. So pretty amazing. And I honestly have no idea how he did it. He sounded so fluent in all those languages. And then another signal I saw was this content creator who's also a self-proclaimed language nerd and former BBC religion reporter, Sophia Smith Galler. And she's created this series of videos basically breaking down Rosalia's album by the songs and her exploration of those 14 languages that Robbie just mentioned. And it's all linked here, so I would definitely take a look at her series. And not only is Sophia pretty well versed on female mystics and saints, which is really central to Rosalia's concept for the album, but she's also a trained opera singer. So I think her opinion is incredibly well informed and nuanced, and she also sings some of the bars in these languages that Rosalia is singing in. And she's also an author, a true Renaissance woman, to the forthcoming book, How to Kill a Language, a story of power, resistance, and the race to save our words, which will debut next May. And while languages are definitely being seriously threatened due to politics of one of the major issues, she's also writing about how languages are being revived in a serious way. And today she literally just posted the news about Welsh and Gaelic becoming officially recognized languages in Scotland, which I didn't even realize they were not officially recognized. So that was pretty exciting news. And then the last piece is this new magazine called Translator. Their second issue just came out, and it's a new magazine of translated journalism and the reportage from around the world for the open-minded and language curious. And their mission is to really collaborate with editors, translators, writers, and publishers from around the world to curate and translate journalism and nonfiction writing from beyond the English-speaking sphere of influence, and really pushing back against that monolingual media ecosystem. So a very ambitious project, but one I'm personally excited about. So cue up your language learning apps and let's go.
Love this so much. I just saw an amazing question come through about Lux tapping into spirituality and religion, and do we think that there'll be this kind of like spirituality, religion kind of rising as a trend? I think that's such an interesting kind of topic and one that we've discussed quite a lot in here at FS, and I think for me, I'm definitely seeing that come through in a big way. I think even like all of that Florence and the Machine stuff, where it's kind of like she looked a lot at like symbolism and witchcraft, and you think that they're kind of the opposite ends of the spectrum, but actually, until the kind of witch trials, like witchcraft before it was like had that bad reputation, and Catholicism worked hand in hand, and you would go and get a spell from the witch, and then you'll go and get a prayer from the priest, and it was like this harmonious kind of mutual understanding thing, and then all hell broke loose and people were drowned and burnt at the stake. But I think there's like this real kind of rising within that, and I guess in times of kind of deep trauma which we're kind of living in right now, I think people do tend to lean towards spirituality, religion, kind of symbols, witchcraft. I don't know if anybody else wants to chime in.
I
Um,
mean, there's so much to say about this, Layla, if you want to go ahead.
oh, sure. I was just gonna say we actually just put out a report on this in the culture section if anyone wanted to dive in, but Um, I think it's really interesting that like for a while it seemed to be more of like a subversion thing of people kind of embracing things like the cross, like Ethel Kane, if anyone's familiar with her, she's definitely a leader in that space, but now we're kind of seeing it move to like a more sincere appreciation of religion, and it's kind of offering guidance, like Robbie's saying, in this like time where nothing really feels comfortable or safe anymore. And we're actually seeing like millennials and Gen Z outpacing older generations in church attendance. And then things like the Buddhism convention in South Korea too, where that are like really embracing Gen Z. So it's definitely moving towards a sincere like exploration of religion for sure.
I think it's interesting too with Rosalia, like she's definitely embracing the kind of aesthetics of Catholicism and really leaning into that. And we're already seeing like, I wish someone on the beauty team was here because they could speak to this much better than me, but the halo effect that she did with bleaching her hair is already all over social media. So definitely something to watch for the coming year and years, I would say, because it does feel like a big moment of that sort of religious aesthetics coming back.
Thanks. All right. So for market buzz, well, sorry, trends to watch. Let's jump back to Layla to walk us through some rock revival.
Yeah, this is kind of another good offshoot. I feel like we have a lot of music culture insight, which is like my favorite thing in the world. So, but
Mm.
this is basically, I feel like when thinking about what to expect for 2026, my immediate thought was Beyonce. If you guys don't know, it's kind of speculated that her newest album or next release is going to be a rock album, since she's kind of keeping up this trend of like exploring different genres. But I think it's really interesting because even though there's no set date or anything for that project or even confirmed that it's going to be that, we're already kind of seeing rock come back with young people. Platforms like TikTok are exposing them to like old bands that they didn't get to experience the first time around, and then even newer acts like Somber. I just became aware of like a band called Geese too. That's like a rock band that I haven't gotten to listen to yet, but I'm diving in slowly but surely. And I just think even just seeing like the impact of Cowboy Carter and how that Western aesthetic ended up falling into fashion so hard, I feel like maybe we could see rock have the same kind of influence. Whether it's like people experimenting with leather or like studs, I don't know. Kind of stereotypical, but I definitely feel like in this time there's a lot of angst that people are trying to explore. So I feel like that will be something to look out for.
Nice. I love, I don't know, I'm seeing like more like female-led like ensembles kind of become more like, even though they've been around for a while, like people like Amal and the Sniffers, who I'm fully obsessed with. Anush, they're performing in Barcelona next year, if you're interested. And people like The Last Dinner Party, who are like amazing as well. That are kind of like, I like how there's this kind of like blurring between like rock and punk, or like this kind of like operatic and like rock with like The Last Dinner Party. Yeah, very excited to see that come into fruition. Let's switch gears from rock to active and jump over to some market buzz with Rachel, please.
Hey everyone, I'm Rachel. I'm Director of Active and Outdoor here at FS. Feel like we're going through a newspaper and we're on the sports section. But yeah, I'll take us through some links here. I'm going to speak a little bit about FIFA World Cup because I was thinking, okay, in 2026, there's a lot of really great sports events. One of them is the 2026 World Cup, which is massive. So I have two links on there, which can give you a bit more of some visuals as I'm going through it, because there's all of these different home kits. They're slowly releasing. On the one side, we have Adidas and all of the teams that fall under that umbrella. Puma, Nike will be out as well. But for people that know FIFA, don't know FIFA, call it soccer or football, it's going to be really massive. It's going to be the biggest sporting event on the planet for this particular year. And that's saying something, as we also have the Olympics in 2026 as well. But basically, it's larger than the Super Bowl. It's even larger than the Olympics because it's bringing together the entire world. In early decades, when it first started, it was just 13 teams. Then it became 16 teams. Then it became 24 and 32. And this year is such a major deal because it's the first World Cup to have 48 teams. And it's also the first time that three countries are hosting together. So the United States, Canada, and Mexico. And this tournament will be held from June to July across 16 different cities. So also making the largest footprint for the World Cup that it's ever had. The final will be held at MetLife Stadium in New York City, which is quite huge, massive for the city. And right now, also since it's expanded to 48 teams, it's becoming a lot more meaningful. It's not just adding in new teams, but also opening up representation. So there's a lot of different areas that are coming forward. We might have something that's like a really good Cinderella story for teams that maybe didn't make it through in previous seasons, but maybe they'll have a shot this year. So I'm really excited to see all of these new faces, all of these new players. And here it's not about playing for their club. They're representing their home, their families, their communities, their flags, where they grew up. So really giving everyone around the world a chance to be seen. And if you want to click through the links, Robbie, for there, I wanted to showcase a little bit of the styles in there because they're really great. And it's something that at Active, we're going to be keeping tabs on. And it's a really great chance for not just the teams, but also the countries and the players to have this representation on their jerseys. So all of the colors are really significant, all of the symbology, and I really love seeing all these different home kits. So you can go through them a little bit here. And I'll speak a little bit more as you go through them here, but really, truly, the impact of the World Cup is going to be quite massive. They regularly draws an audience in hundreds of millions, but the full tournament will attract billions of viewers worldwide. I think, for example, the last one had 1.1 billion viewers worldwide. So we're going to only see that multiply as this team sport grows bigger and bigger. In contrast, Super Bowl has around 100 million viewers, just to kind of put that in perspective. So really, really excited for this one. Also, I think what's quite interesting is seeing how this will impact more of American sports culture because the rest of the world is a huge fan of the World Cup, the FIFA, and with America, it's slowly started to trickle in a little bit as well. But I'm excited to see how this will really take over America, have them really, pay attention to the sport a little bit more as well. We saw how a trend such as bloatcore really shook up the market, especially at that intersection between active youth footwear. So really exciting. They're all on this call together, but we saw the effect of bloatcore. So seeing how this football, this soccer will start making an effect across all these different markets, I think will be really special, especially after this World Cup this summer.
Nice. Anywhere else you want me to jump to?
Anywhere to drive. I also
Yeah.
have some links there on the side. So again, I was speaking about the World Cup, but also we have the Olympics, which again is right around the corner, which is crazy to think about. But the 2026 Olympics, of course, we know they will be in Milan. So from one fashion city to another, moving from Paris to Milan, of course, the outfits, designs, innovation really has to keep up. I wanted to just draw attention to two different designs that I thought were really special. First one, obviously for Nike, this is their jacket that they designed for Team USA, and it's super cool. It's all about innovation. So instead of packing it with down, they're using these inflatable air panels. So you can pump it up or you can deflate it, really depending on how warm you need it to be. So the athletes have full control over their temperature right on the fly. And also the insulation is just air, so it doesn't have all of that bulky quilting. It looks really sleek, really sculpted, of course, really, really futuristic. Something else I also really loved about this particular design is accessibility. So they included details such as magnetic zippers, easy grip tabs, so Paralympic athletes can use it just as easily. And of course, we're going to be seeing a lot more designs coming through. So similar to the home kits for the World Cup, I'm really excited to see what this brings forward for design. And the last one here, this is coming from Lululemon. So they've continued to design for Team Canada. And this is a little bit of a snapshot. They're one of the first countries to kind of give a sneak peek, a lookbook of their design. So of course they have oversized maple leaves, of course, for Canada. But they also have a really great print. So it's this typography map print that references Canada's geography and also has national symbolism prints in that one as well. Also within the video, you can see that some of the certain pieces are multifunctional. So they have pieces that are a skirt. It can also become a vest, a shawl, a wrap. So really these pieces that are thinking about the athletes from start to finish, whether they're performing or on the sideline, really making it feel very flexible and easy to wear. They have the podium jackets, they have media jackets, loungewear, performance gear, all made for all of the different athletes. And then also taking a look at some more of the adaptive features and accessibility. They also feature magnetic zippers, the pull tabs, but also something that I really loved is they started including Braille on the clothing tabs as well. So they're taking interest in listening to what the athletes are requiring and what they would like to see, how they would like to be represented in their own gear. They're also thinking about seated fit designs and making sure that the designs have abrasion resistant fabrics. So really thinking about every aspect of the athlete from Olympics, Paralympics, and everything in between. And again, they really worked with the athletes for this design process, making sure that all of the input was in there, not just for the colors and the design, but also the design pieces that make sure that it's functionable and fashionable at the end of the day. So this is just the start. We're going to see a lot more designers come through. Of course, Giorgio Armani was the designer for Milan, but this is a really great chance for different countries, designers, and teams to collaborate and have these really cool kits for the Olympics, which will be here soon.
Amazing. Thanks. We have 5 minutes left, so and to everybody in the chat, we see you, we hear you, we're listening. Yeah, the old format is not dead. We wanted to try some new things, so we had some topics that came up that warranted a bit more discussion. And we're always up for changing things up. So we love all your comments. Keep them coming, keep all the feedback coming, and we will do something in the future that feeds you creatively. So don't worry, we listen. All right. So lastly, in 4 minutes, we know nostalgia is a big topic on everyone's lips. So I would love to finish with Layla, if you could walk us through this next segment.
Yeah, for sure. I love tracking anything social related, and I think something really interesting coming through lately is kind of this move toward like shared nostalgia online. First, Vine is coming back. It's not going to be called Vine. I think it's going to be called like Divine or something like that, but it'll basically function like the old app did, but it's also going to have this archive of over like 10,000 Vine videos. And I think that that's just going to be so fun for people to get to comb through, people that used to be fans, and then people, of course, that didn't get to experience it the first time. And they're also banning AI generated videos. So, really appeasing the people that are kind of frustrated with that shift online. And then also we have this new search engine called Lore that's basically it's geared toward fans and it's supposed to be meant to allow them to kind of go down these rabbit holes of information that provide backstory on the things that they're obsessed with, whether it's like fandoms or just other obsessions. And I think both of these are really interesting just in terms of how people have been talking about the decline of social media and being frustrated with the lack of social interaction. And then, of course, AI slop seeping through too. So I feel like this is a really interesting turn where it's kind of like we're getting to still be communal in exploring these archives together, but it's also like looking to the past on an individual level too. So I feel like we may see more of these things pop up as well. I feel like this whole decade is kind of defined by looking at nostalgia 24/7. So definitely feels like a strong shift.
Yeah, we're really kind of like on the youth section, we're really kind of seeing this kind of like new version of nostalgia come through. I think it's really interesting to see like with all the return to like vintage and how brands are trying to kind of like navigate this idea of like nostalgia through vintage, but then trying to kind of generate income, like money through collections that kind of support vintage rather than compete with it. I think nostalgia is like a big topic. Love the idea of this kind of like kind of fandom kind of culture because it feels like we kind of lost that to just like images on an Instagram scroll. So it'll be cool to kind of see that come about. All right. Thank you so much to everyone. I'm going to stop sharing. Yeah. Does anyone have any final comments before we end? No? Perfect. Thank you to everybody for joining us. Thank you for your feedback. We always love hearing from you and from our community. And have a great holiday. And we will see you at our next show and tell, which is in February. Thank you so much.